So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Steps January meetup. Um, I think most of you have been here before. Maybe this is Carl's first one, I think.
Yep,
Maybe
it is.
Rachel's. Welcome, Carl. Welcome, Rachel, if you can hear us. And for people who've not been to one before, we start with a set of words, and we'll talk a little about this later. But just as something to kind of like to set the tone for these sessions. We've wrote and refined and twiddled and sometimes not read them all, but picked parts of them. But I'll read the whole thing today. Show the easy place to start. As we navigate these transitional times and traverse the emerging regenerative territory, we commonly find that there is not always an obvious path to follow. With so many questions to navigate, yet no single answer to guide us, we look for the footprints of others to consider where we might take our next steps. However, even in the most experienced travellers in these spaces would admit that they're continually finding their way, unsure of what is around the next bend or over the next peak. There is an ongoing dance with uncertainty, switching between action and inspiration, acting before we think too much, and thinking before we go too far. So, although taking the first or next step can often feel like the hardest, know that you are not walking alone. Whether or not your own trail will become a valuable path for others doesn't matter. We help each other towards a regenerative tomorrow, not as experts, but as parents, neighbours, colleagues, and citizens. So, this is year 3 of the Steps Collective. And the first year we just committed to doing one every month. We thought if we do one thing every month, then we will have done well. And it was a bit of a scrabble towards the end, and then we forgot that we had done one, and then we did an extra one, and so on. But that's fine. That's how organisation works. Year 2, we did a monthly online session like this most months, apart from August, because August was being August and no one was around. But then also did other things. So the kind of the monthly thing was here for people who wanted to go for things. But then we met up in different places and did different things. So in reflecting on this last week, or was it this week, Andy?
This week.
Back to the talk about January
That's
and
how
speak.
fast your January's going, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So as we met up and talked about this, we are going, how do we do more of those sorts of things? But also, how do we sort of look to grow the conceptual space to think about this is not just something that a few people always have to be at and do. Have we got enough sense of guidance, support, so that people can go, I think I want to do a steps thing, and I think this is one of them, and I want to do it down the local pub, or I want to do it with people in a working group we're part of, or in a company, or whatever else. So today we're going to explore some of that. So I will, I'll drop, I'll just share screen at the moment, and then I'll drop the Miro link in after when we get into the kind of the open bit. So I think that sort of like a lot of this thinking really started taking shape when we did the deep time walk, which Pins and Sam led, and it was amazing. Andy and I were there, and we barely did anything. It was brilliant. But it sort of like it just became so. Pins and Sam had been sort of like I are now accredited deep time walk facilitators, and said we'd like to do one, and we said okay, so what's the least we can do to support? And it was the most wonderful day through every part of British weather you can imagine. Everything happened. We had rain, we had something like sleet, we had rainbows, we had sun, the works. And it was just after that, I was like, okay, so more of this can happen under this idea of the steps. It doesn't even necessarily to be as big and structured as this, but just getting people together to talk about these things is a useful discipline. So, for Christmas, we had another meetup at the Be the Earth Foundation. Thanks to Chris for that space and the hosting, and we can talk about some of that in a minute, Chris, I think as well. Um, But this idea of sort of look, what does it look like to support 12 stewards through the year? The notional idea is that each one of these stewards proposes that they will do, and this is open for discussion today. But notionally, there's something interesting in saying that if you're a steward, one of the 12 stewards, you should host both an online and an offline thing. They can be as big or as little as you like. Some people last year just did a one-to-one interview for an online thing. It could be a meetup and you just send us pictures and like, I got together and talked to my local allotment group about this, or whatever it happens to be. But there's something nice we feel in holding both an online space and an in-person space and considering that both of those an extension of that stewardship. So really, we wanted to talk today about the sorts of things that people might want to see, the sorts of things that people might want to volunteer for do, and then also the support that we can create so that can feel like it's, to use the metaphor, it feels just like the logical next step. So I'm going to share this board. As I do, thoughts, responses.
I'm totally into it. Love it.
Chris has volunteered.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I also am hoping to be in a position to opt to volunteer either one of a couple of spaces in London for one of the places for stuff that might, be the Earth or somewhere else. As happy to support if people are looking for places to do things in London and figure out ways to do that.
Cool. Do you want to?
Can I say what Be the Earth is?
Yeah, in fact, let me share the screen again, and I'll zoom in on the photos that I've got on the
board. So, hello to everyone. Those who I haven't met, I've been coming along to this for a while. Interested in, anyway, a whole load of things going on for me, generative design, long now, things like that. But this space, step space, not step spaces, well, it looks like it is, the BB Earth space, is something that I am now involved with formally hosting and convening in a venue just near Oxford Circus. And it's evolving what I can offer at what price. But there are certainly some things I can host for free. And we hosted Steps for free in December. And there's a few hoops to jump through in order to use it. But it's, as you can see in that picture, it's a very nice space. And it's, if you're having ideas about being a steward and you want to do your in-person event in London, then talk if you'd like some support in finding a place to put it. Although let's not always do it in this place, although it's very nice.
And we did get to do the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen picture when we were there. Thank you to all of those. And I think I'll just drop the Miro board in there. The offer of space is kind of like an interesting platform, especially sort of like in places where people don't have one but want to do a thing, but also in different places as well. So if anybody has kind of like that sort of thing, because I don't really know what I want to do to run one, but I can sort of, let's say, there's a territory I'm interested in, there's a space I'm interested in, or I'd love to go to this place and so on. Then we can like collectively work out what to do. Hello.
There's a couple of questions in the chat that I also resonate with a bit. So I've had some thoughts about what I might want to do, and I think a few people have had thoughts as well, but they're not sure what isn't a steps thing. So I wondered if that would be something we'll define in the bit that follows on Miro.
Yes, I think that's right. As we sort of for a work project, I've been reading Ursula K. Le Guin's translation of the Tao, um, as you do. And one of the things in that is about sort of and just the Tao more generally, is that there's a way. And I think the sort of rather than just like broad brush strokes or kind of like steps, things kind of this or kind of that and so on. I wonder if we use some of this year to go sort of I don't know if this is a steps thing. It feels like it might be, so let's do it and see if it is. There's almost a kind of I want to. My gut feeling from doing this other work is just kind of sort of the more people take a first step, the more it grows this conceptual space. And actually, I'm going to show another thing. I have shared the board, but there's kind of like a weird flower diagram on the board in 2026. And this came from a conversation that H and I were having before, just talking about stewardship. And just going sort of the more collective stewarding you have, the more you grow a conceptual space. So the more the sort of you have edges and places where it joins together and things sort of emerge and you go. So it means that some people's thing is not other people's thing, but under the Steps Collective, it is all the Steps Collective thing. So also, I think myself, Andy, Lizzie, Rob, and Esther, who were stewarding last year, are just keen for sort of to go sort of we have our ideas, but obviously it's all there should be a platform for other people's ideas and extensions and so on, because then it grows the conceptual space of getting people to think about what regenerative things mean to them, where they see people starting, where they've started themselves, how they might share that.
Hey.
Nice. Thanks, Carol.
Can I jump in?
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, yeah. Some things that were coming up for me, I was thinking, I always feel a bit like a weird offshoot in Birmingham on my own. I've never, if I did an event here, I'd be like, who's coming, that thing. And also when it comes to regenerative design, there's a part of me that wonders if it shouldn't, there's something I went to London at Christmas and I felt so overwhelmed. And so it just felt dead as a place. So buzzing but dead, if that makes sense. And it was it scares me that a lot of regenerative thinking is coming from London, because it's I want it to come from nature. So there's sort of a push for me to think can people do things out? Could we say that things have to be outside rather than in a room, in a box? I don't know. It's just my initial thoughts.
That's really nice. Yeah.
Just leave that there.
My mom, I was going to say I started typing, Lizzie, if you build it, they will come, is my...
sorry.
Sorry? What?
It's a very techie saying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I only know it from the film.
Oh, okay. No, it's used throughout the startup scene.
Oh, how horrible. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
It's true. We can use it. Hey, I'm just going to say it's true. We can use it. We don't have to be afraid.
Yeah, why don't we just pretend that, I'm saying if we build it in the real world, they will come out of their apps and out of their screens and get on a train. If you have an idea for something to do in Birmingham, I'm sure there are people on this call who will know people in Birmingham or who might want to make it a reason to come to Birmingham.
Yeah. Well, I do events myself at the moment. So.
Fantastic. Well, no, but as in, if you tell us what to come to,
okay, I
would happily make the trip to Birmingham for a Steps in Birmingham, because I would want to support that, and also I'd want to come and meet cool people in Birmingham. Okay. Also, I went to a great one. It was a very small thing. It was just for people in Dorset in December, and there's people from that who I would, I am really up for things that are. For a start, I don't think there are people I don't know. Is everyone on this call in the UK? I don't know, but what can be done outside the UK? I'd love. There are a couple of people I know in Berlin who would organise a great thing, and then I'd love to hear about it online. And also give me a regenerative reason to leave London, and I tend to take it rather than if I don't have to come up with them myself, which is what I normally do. But get someone tell me to leave London, I'll try to. I'd rather not be here.
Leave London, Chris. Turn back, Dick Whittington.
One of my oldest mates, he says, one of the great perennials of London. is that Chris is trying to leave.
I would also add that I don't think there's a minimum viable. Oh, here we go, tech speak again. I don't think there's a minimal amount of people required to make something happen either. So, as long as there's two of you, obviously. But there's no shame. We've definitely done monthly gatherings where there's been a handful of people turn up, and we don't see that as like a failure or anything. So just try to not worry too much about that. It only takes a conversation, doesn't it, to start something.
And so to the point of the kind of like the weaving things together, so Charlie's just put in the chat, they're in Berlin, as is Esther, who's joining this call when she can, but was stewarding last year. And then to Chris's points about other places, so Tobin and Andrea are also interested. Like we did one together when I was in Barcelona last year, but they are keen to sort of like to pick this up as a Barcelona thing as well. And so, I mean, I'm totally feeling the energy already from this. I'm going to give you all a task now because it's Friday morning and you're ready for a task. If you look on the boards in fact, I'll just bring everyone to me. If you're not on the board, just drop things into the chat. Most people are, but you can't just bring them into chat. So I'm going to bring everyone to me. So basically, over here, we have a kind of like, just a section of like, what might we do? So if you just want to capture something as kind of, I'd like to do an in-person thing in Birmingham, fine. Or I know H has been talking about a specific trip, or even just a concept you'd be interested in knowing more about, then just grab some post-it notes and let's just spend 3 or 4 minutes just noting some things down and then have a chat about that section. Okay? Go. This is where like more professional facilitators have some sort of like nice music that kind of like fills the space in this while people are working away. I don't have that. I just have the Scottish accent and lots of banter. Of course, as soon as you say you've got lots of banter, then it runs out.
I might also just add, I wouldn't let your specific role, so there's an idea in your head that you think would be interesting. I think you'd be involved in that idea in some shape or form, obviously, because it's come from you. But there might be people here who just don't feel comfortable, I don't know, hosting a gathering of people. In which case, I wouldn't let that stop you from writing it down because we can always work out what the exact roles are. So I would say less censored than you would. Don't over censor an idea. If you've got an interesting idea, definitely put it down there.
Oh, here's Algie. Algie, hello. Can you see the chat from before you joined? If not, I'll put a board link in.
No, I can't.
Okay, I'll share the board link again.
Cheers.
Actually, John, do we need to know who the idea comes from? Do we want people to just initial them or something, or put their name?
Oh, yeah, we could initial them.
You can. There's a setting that puts the author on the post-it.
Yeah, it depends if they're visitors though or not. I think, Misha, if they're just anonymous visitors,
Good point.
We won't know.
Good point.
Oh yeah, I can see yours popping up. Yeah, okay, okay, fine. So give it one more minute. So these are well, this is amazing. What I'm going to do is okay, we're going to do a little clustering exercise, but in the following way. Um, I'd like you to pull your post-it notes to the side of the white space as if you were holding them in your hands. And then one person's going to put one down they've got an idea of, and then if other people have got one like it, they can put it near it. So even if it's in a different space, but it's thematically interesting, or if it's thematically different but in the same sort of environment, then we'll do it however emerges. So, but I will ask someone to volunteer to go first.
I can go first. So I have a bunch of different walks that are like semi-walks, semi-workshops that I just do with my friends locally here. And I would be happy to share them or open them up to more people. I'll just check in the first one, which is like I wasn't familiar with the concept of deep time walk, but I do a walk in Folkestone where we talk about the eras and eras and eras of formation of the chalk and flint of the White Cliffs, because we're right by the White Cliffs. And then we do some reflection and some writing around the textures and time and how it makes us feel. So it can be refined to be something else, but it's that.
That's really lovely. It's the I wonder if there's also the opportunity, like if you don't, you should talk to Pins and Sam about sort of like deep time walk and sort of like what the because it is it's a kind of it's an accredited thing where and the accreditation is not important, but the structure is. But I wonder if there's a way that we can go look, and there's something interesting perhaps in leaving something behind, but mapping out the route of a deep time walk around your walk in Folkestone, because there's something about the distance you go and how many yards you have to travel and whatever else and so on. But as a collective effort to say, so look, we have mapped out the deep time walk structure, but around your walk in Folkestone, but then make it available for others to know about to see whatever else seems that it could be a lovely thing.
Yeah. Can you tell me the names again of the people they just said?
Yeah, so Pins Brown.
Yep.
And Sam Jarman. They're both in the WhatsApp group, I think.
I shall reach out. And I'll also read about I've opened the tab. I just need to read what deep time walk is.
Yeah, cool. Carl, you put something there beside that.
Always helps if I unmute myself, doesn't it? So yeah, this was something actually which I did quite frequently post-pandemic, was actually posting monthly walks. I worked with the Canal and Rivers Trust locally here in Leicestershire. And it was just a way of getting kind of local freelancers in particular, as they were building their kind of ideas and their projects and things like that, to just actually just get out and about and connect, do a bit of networking, and whilst they were kind of walking and connecting in nature. And it was amazing how people shifted from just by being in that space and realizing how quickly they moved from urban to rural settings by walking along waterways. How then it was quite notable how they stopped talking about work and started talking about, oh, I never knew this was here. Started talking about place, started talking about people and stories and where did this come from, and discovering old buildings that they never even knew was there. So it was just speaking to Hannah's previous point about regenerative being outside, being out and connecting into nature is super important, but how do you do that in cities? I found that waterways are a really good avenue to connect people out of urban environments into rural quite quickly. Obviously, they're not always super accessible. So in terms of people with mobility needs and things like that, so there's other things to consider, but certainly for able-bodied individuals, it is. I found it was a nice way of moving people from urban to rural environments pretty quickly, and the conversation shifted as well, and they started kind of embracing that more. So yeah, so that was kind of my idea.
That's brilliant. I love that. Go on.
The accessibility angle is something that I was thinking about, this online, offline. So there's a few of the walks that I've been doing that I've half made a workshop that's just an online version of the steps, but we're not in the place. And obviously you lose so much when you're not in the place, but it still opens it up to people who can't make it to the place, because my walks are also very inaccessible, even though we're climbing steep stuff occasionally. So that might be an interesting thing to think. If there's anything that you can lift from the rivers and canals walk, sorry, that could be, that could be shared online somehow.
Yeah, we always ended up in a cafe at the end. So we always started from the university kind of library cafe area. So people were always able to kind of come and sit by the river because the local canal kind of connected directly to campus. So we were able to kind of sit outside and still talk about those things. So there was still some opportunity for people to kind of meet and greet in kind of an accessible space, but the actual kind of walking and rolling was a bit more challenging off of kind of tarmac paths. But yeah, the offline could definitely be a way of navigating some of that accessibility and inclusion needs.
There's also a lovely thing about the online in-person and online version. I wonder what the other ways of the regenerative phrasings of those might be, about exactly, Carl, as you were saying, about when you get to the cafe at the end and you have that moment to sort of I don't want to say process it, but to just relate to the experience differently. There's something about the online. Does the online session lead into an in-person session, or does the in-person session lead into an online session? And the relationship between the two, I'm feeling, as someone who can't necessarily get to something in Berlin, that I would love to be part of a conversation that follows, learning from something that has happened in Berlin. So it's like it's every form of accessible. And I just love the fact that on these calls, I, who enjoy organising things in London where I happen to live, but the first two ideas are coming from Folkestone and Leicester, which is just, I don't know, it's too easy when you're in London to not be able to get out. Anyway, can you tell I'm just dying to get out? It's becoming the theme.
Can someone please invite Chris to somewhere that isn't London, and soon? I mean, Chris, we've only set this up as an intervention just to get out outside zone 2.
I know that, John. I love that for you.
I don't know where in London you are, but it's either 45 minutes or an hour on the train to Folkestone. So come over. I'll take you on a walk. I've got plenty.
The moment you said chalk, you had me.
Yeah, that's another
You're very
story.
welcome to come.
So there's a walk section. Who's got something? So like a nice way to run this sometimes is sort of like, who's got something that's a bit similar, So it could be a field trip or a destination. Oh, Chris has got another walk. Okay, so look, put the anything that's walking, put near walking. Anything that's adjacent to walking, and someone who hasn't spoken yet. What have you got?
I think I've got an adjacent to walking one, which is connecting to place through drawing, which could be on a walk or it's can be stationary, but I guess I've got an art practice of drawing through places, and I find that it's not a way of getting to an output like a good drawing, but it's a way of connecting to a place, and it's a way of being in a place, and it's a way of seeing in a place, and it's kind of like a route. It can be like a route into experiencing somewhere, I guess, on a deeper level. And yeah, I don't know, like we said in the beginning in the chat, I'm not too sure how it fits in or if it could fit in, but that could be an interesting thing.
I really like that
think it
from
would.
the. Go on.
I think it would fit perfectly because it's just basically all the walks that I'm doing are walk and draw. So I think it's actually the best way to capture notes as you go places. I think wherever you take people to do that, I think it will be very on point with what we're doing.
It's the sort of. I also think there's something interesting in. And this is just giving me an idea. I don't know if this would work, but the sort of like you go, if you take the three regenerative things of social, economic, environmental, and you just go to a place and start drawing what it becoming more socially regenerative might look like, economically and environmentally. And you could either do three different drawings yourself, or of three people doing it, and then just look for overlaps and connections and whatever else. Because then it just becomes you can do it on a high street, you could do it in a kind of like a town square, you could do it on a seafront, whatever it happens to be. So there's just some of there's something really nice sometimes about just standing in a place and letting things pass by you for a couple of hours as
Yeah.
the place changes.
Yeah, and I think as well, we're saying about London being a difficult place to get out of psychologically, and it can feel a bit dead. But I guess when you go in with a lens, when you go in with paper and a pen, and you're in a place, and you've got this kind of search on, like I've done drawing activities around places like the Barbican or Abney Park Cemetery, and that can be a way of finding little green shoots or finding parts of nature in a more difficult place as well.
Has anyone else got any sort of place-based activity?
I think that's I don't know because everything is in a place, so I'm a bit confused by the question. Could you maybe rephrase it?
Well, why don't we just remove the label for now? And do you think you have anything similar to the idea of connecting to place through drawing? Whatever connection you see, or does anyone have that?
There was something about making things together, ideations stuff as well. I saw Nicola.
Ideation and rapid prototyping workshops, maybe was that it?
Yeah, that one. Charlie, do you want to speak to that?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, it's just something I've thought about as a potentially fun thing to do, either in person, online, or online, or in a location where we meet, like as a one-off. And I personally just really enjoy the format of sort of design jams where you get together with a bunch of people for like a couple of hours or a day or a weekend, and you just start rapid prototyping, just making things without thinking so much about without feeling like you have to plan through the whole thing. You just start making it like really quickly, and then you have a shitty first draft very quickly that you can then keep working on and keep developing further. And yeah, I think like there's different ways around doing that. It can be a session where people bring existing ideas and things that they have already been thinking about, or want to like already started working on, and they want to just have that dedicated day, 2 hours, weekend, whatever it is, and be in a room with other people also working on their stuff. Or we design like prompts for everyone, and people can pick from those prompts and like make it their own. I think there's lots of different ways to do that. So I just kind of put it there to see if there's an interest in something like that.
That's, I think that, I mean, one, I think that does definitely connect to the place through drawing, but the sort of like that that early iterative exploration of sort of like, okay, so this is what's here or where we are, however it happens to be, etc. What happens next, or what could happen next, or what should happen next? Just being able to not talk about the thing, but make and shape something with your hands, however you do that, I think becomes a kind of like a very valuable thing to do in specific places. So rather than doing it when you're like, separated or isolated from those places, like going somewhere to do that is really interesting. Thank you. What time is it? How is it 9:42? I mean, back to the theme of how is it late January? But where's all the time going? Who wants to go next? Tell me something different that you really want to make sure we get here.
I'm not responding to that, but I am connecting it to what I think it links to the ideation of rapid prototyping. And I put down kind of research or practice probes, thinking that like I'm sure lots of people have stuff that is like, oh, I would love to be able to look into that, but realistically, what a bloody rabbit hole to go down. So, for example, one thing is biosemiotics that I've been looking at very vaguely, but in terms of like how valid is that? Is that kind of an impossibility and it's just human kind of projection? Trying to understand how different organisms understand meaning or operate around things in complex ways. But there could be a space to, I don't know, I feel like that's just something that if anyone else has, I feel like if you have those things and you kind of put them out there and then other people are like, oh yeah, I've also been thinking a bit about that, you have more of a social incentive and potential pressure, good pressure to think about it together and then maybe present something that then could be like the starting point for an ideation session or something where people kind of riff off it, and in that way you have more of there might be some grounding theme, but there's a boundary exploring way of responding to it.
So that's really interesting. You're describing in my ex-band member head, right? You go into a music shop and on the wall there's the cards that say, I want a bassist who's into Led Zeppelin and Metallica and such, right? And if anybody has got a similar thing, oh, I'm a bassist and I'm into that, and so what is the steps equivalent of that? So, and it's almost like it's an earlier stage than sort of like, oh, I'm going to be a student, run a session and so on. It's just like, I just want to connect to someone who is also seeing this or thinking this or wants to explore that and so on. So maybe we need to think about how we capture some of that and allow people to see links and make those new things emerge.
No, I like that analogy a lot. Thank you.
Is that because you're a bassist who's into Led Zeppelin and Metallica?
No, just cracking. That's what I'm after. I just want to be the cool kid in a band. Fuck.
Everyone wants to be a bassist.
I'm very happy to be the uncool kid in a band.
Yeah, very nice.
Drummer.
We can craft work it.
Who have we not heard from yet? I'm about to volunteer Jenny, I think.
Yeah, I was feeling a bit fraudulent because I was thinking like I don't know whether these are steps things or just things that I've been thinking about. But yeah, so I've got three things in different states of undress. So I decided this year I want to do more things with my hands. I've been in my head for too much. And I had a great experience last year where I sort of went to a place in Spain to try and uncover a garden that someone's mother had made using permaculture principles. About sort of it's been sort of fallow for about 10 years, and the sort of ingredients of that was something I was thinking like, how do I get more of? So I'm going to do a permaculture course, and permaculture was a word that I'd heard loads but didn't really understand, and realised the more I got into it that it's really linked to systems change, sort of thinking and sort of principles, but it's much more grounded, obviously. So I'm going to do that. But there's something about how do you disseminate that a bit more widely? And then the other thing was something I was talking to with one of the women I was with in Spain, which was how can we bring some of this to Brighton? And it was we had an idea that we would want to have like a film night, because there were several films like The Nettle Dress and things like that, which kind of like about growing and about nature. But it was like, how could you have a night where you get people together, watch a film, and discuss what you've just watched? And wouldn't food be a great thing to bring people together around? And we've been thinking about that. But to be honest, got a bit stuck thinking like it feels like quite a big thing, because there's lots of other things to think about and do. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But I think that the film night thing is something that I do want to pursue. I don't know whether food has to be an essential ingredient, but it's the sticking point at the moment. But it's that kind of how you get together, like that food feels like the thing that brings you together.
That's right.
There was another film thing.
There's a film thing from me because we've got a small cinema at BBS. I mean, I know it's a bit far from Brighton. Don't want to gazump that. And your version sounds better, but we do have a cinema if we wanted to do a film.
Well, I've realised that there's so I went to one last Friday. There's a sort of Hanover hall. So there's a group called Hanover Action, and they put on a film night, which was a really beautiful film actually. If anyone's interested in community and growing, but it's like Together We Grow. It's like a 40-minute film, and then had a curry, like round shared tables and stuff. But the missing part of that is we didn't actually talk about the film. So it was like you needed some kind of prompts to talk about the film rather than just eat your curry and go. But it was kind of like, oh, actually, there's things like this happening. Do I just support them, or do I need to add something? Or like I started questioning whether it was something that was necessary.
You've just made me think. So on that specific, people that watching a film and then eating and then going. I wonder if we can pull from any of that kind of like flip the classroom stuff that we talk about in academic circles. So sort of like basically you go, we're hosting a gathering, but watch the film before you come, and then we're going to be talking about it. So the sort of like so almost like is it a film book club as well? Because I think the talking about it is really important. But obviously, if you only get people together to watch the film, and then people have to go, they kind of have to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had quite a sort of immediate response. It's like, oh no, people have to watch the film together, and it was interesting to think, oh yeah, actually, like that feels like it's an important ingredient actually. So yeah, it was just kind of that was quite useful. But I think
it's like,
they're not like
they're
not like hour and a half movies. They're kind of 40-minute that sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
So, like shorts. But yeah.
Something else that you said was so that permaculture course and going out and doing something with your hands.
Mm.
And this is only like a local example, and it's like I'm sure there are others around. So there's kind of like a local community orchard that I'm associated with, who just have kind of like they go, can people come along on this day and help us clear this stuff?
Mm.
And I wonder if there's a way that we can sort of like go. We should find things like that to do together. So it's almost sort of like the activity is like we're turning up to do something that someone else is organising, whatever else. But the fact that we're doing it as a kind of like a little steps collective outing means that we're also thinking about these principles and talking about it, but without having to overly think about why we're doing what we're doing because we're doing a good thing anyway.
That's the steps equivalent of chalking the horse.
Yeah, right.
For
Tell us
those
about
who don't,
chalking the horse, Chris.
Yeah, what's chalking the horse?
chalking the horse
It's
is
not a euphemism, Jenny. It's not a
not.
euphemism.
Yeah, it is literally we go and spend the day chalking a big horse. A group of us from Long Now London since 2019 um, go to the White Horse of Uffington in Oxfordshire, and the National Trust there. They always need a certain amount of care done for the horse. It's basic, not very hard, but manual labor. It's not actually effort. You just got these little hammers, and it looks hard, but it's really not. So long as you can get on your hands and knees. And we spend a day doing that. And because we've reliably gone back every year, we're now at the point where I've become mates with the warden, and we sort of there are times when they're doing repairs with English Heritage and Oxford Archaeology, and they ask us to come and do the carrying. And some of the archaeologists find it very amusing. You've got all these people from London, well, London, Oxford, Bristol is where we tend to come from, with different backgrounds, police spending a day doing this. We love doing it, and exactly as John's saying, the conversations you have while sitting on that horse, you got the conversations trickling across different people. It's wonderful, and I would love to think what would be the Steps Collective equivalent, and it could be going at orchards or gardening or something like that.
I think there's something really interesting about conversation and connection in that, which is the thing that's kind of like pinging for me. But there's also just a prompt from what's already there, like joining in for what's already there, and it's making me think about Sussex Bay and how the walks that you've been talking about, like particularly the sort of chalk walk and the water walks. Then, like, what's the opportunity to take part in something or prompt something from Sussex Bay rather than organise it ourselves?
We don't need, part of this is we don't need something new. We need to, it's how do you connect to things that are already there and be part of that. And it's one of the wonderful thing about it is that you then get other people coming along and joining our conversation, and it's the conversation you have while knitting, right? One of the three forms of conversation are in a circle, while moving, or while carrying out a task. You have that different conversation when your hands are busy. It's great.
So, this is all wonderful. I've noticed we've 7 minutes left. What I'm just going to ask you to do, and we'll sort of, if you want to send us other notes on the ideas that you've submitted in there, please do send us an email or something. But down the kind of like the bottom bit of the board, it says, "What support would we all need?" I just want everyone to spend 2 minutes thinking about. So if steps is a social infrastructure, or just having the words and permission enough. Let you go, I think this is a steps thing. I want to do this, whatever else. Does putting it up on the kind of Luma calendar help? Does drawing people's attention to it? Does doing little write-ups help? What's the sort of what sort of things for these things as we imagine them would be helpful for you? These are all great because and already I can, without diving deep into them, definitely get a sense of the connection and the things that can make this stuff easier for people. And it gives us lots of things to take away and think about how we set that up. It's brilliant. So with 4 minutes to go, I'd like to invite anyone who hasn't spoken yet, who wishes to say anything. I am looking at you, Nina, but you know.
It's down here. I'm the gallery hopping and then debrief person. So
Yeah.
can you hear me? Yeah. So I've been doing this for a while with colleagues. I've done the Thirst exhibit at Welcome, and then I did like the Quantum Untangled at the Sites Gallery. So what we would do is a couple of us who work in the industry would go out together. We would make sure it's not, and then we would sit around. We would have like a pre-made worksheet, and then we would like discuss ideas. Sometimes a zine would come out of it. Sometimes nothing would. We would just like, yeah, that exhibit was horrible. That's what happened last Saturday. So, um, so yes, but it's been fun. Especially, I realized that, especially with the one of the exhibits at Tate was by an artist called Dohosu, and we were discussing the existence of space and how impermanence can affect how you belong in a community. So, yeah, I feel like it's a nice idea because um, I'm very transient. I don't belong to a specific place, so I'm always very hesitant to come into community stuff. Like when I first came into the Steps Collective thing, I was so worried. I was terrified. I didn't speak for the first 6 months because it felt like I shouldn't have a voice. So going to exhibits would be a nice, like, gives you that leeway.
What I really like in the thing that you've just described, and it's now given me ideas, is that sort of what's the worksheet, the kind of like an A4 that you can print both sided and
Yeah,
turn it over, and you go,
that's
there
it.
you go. You just print this double sided, fold it over, take it with some friends to a thing, and now it's a steps thing.
Yes.
That's lovely. That's kind of what sort of like, you know, back to Andy's point about minimum viable, etc. You go sort of, it's kind of like we can just go to a space and make it a steps thing by doing this simple thing. I
And
really like that.
usually in London, there are really nice focused exhibits. They don't have to be the big ones. The smaller
Yeah.
ones give us really nice ideas, like the one at the Science Gallery. If no one's gone, please go. It's really nice. It's about the King's College cafeteria.
Nice. Thank you for that, Nina.
Thank you.
And any other final thoughts? Andy.
There's a lot of good stuff here, to be honest. I sort of feel like we're halfway through thinking about it. So I'm personally wondering if there's a way we can use I don't know if everyone is in the WhatsApp channel actually or not. Probably most of you are, right? Is there anyone who's not in the WhatsApp channel? That might be a good point to sort of keep riffing ideas off, I think.
Yeah.
Was it Hannah that mentioned the drawing thing? Because it's made me think. I used to do fine art, but this is way back in the day. But I reckon I could dust off my fine art skills and maybe we could do a little hosted drawing session somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, lots of great ideas. I think just need to think about moving them forward. But it's great that there's so much here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that, we will close the first Steps collection of 2026. Thank you very much, everyone. And see you all soon.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.